Welcome all to this webinar about this called From Assumed Alignment to Shared Understanding with the EDGY Enterprise Scan. In this webinar, I will try to raise up and highlight some of the general problems we are facing when we are working with change and transformation, and then how the Enterprise Scan can possibly help us to better address these problems. It's not going to be so that we can solve everything. I hope you're not coming for a one size fits all or one silver bullet solutions to everything. But I truly believe that the Enterprise Scan can be of great help in many of the problems that we're facing today with it when it comes to change and transformation. And I hope to be able to lift up several ways how we can actually do that. But no, okay, you have sound, so I'll go on. We've all heard the different statistics about the failure rates of different change and transformation initiatives. I'm not going to put any value into these statistics. I mean, it's always difficult to say what is a failure actually, but we all know that there is a problem. Especially when it comes to new and emerging technologies and frameworks. I mean, just look at Agile Wave, which is, well, it's not doing so well at the moment. AI is they're all a boom, but still we're seeing reports claiming success rate in the single-digit percentages. So it's obviously difficult. And especially when we have new technologies or frameworks or ways of working that we need to implement corporate wide, it's a lot of things we need to think about. And it's obviously that we are struggling. We can't blame it on cultures and incompetence, but is it really? Is it just that? Is it that simple? We just need more competent people, or we need to fix the culture first, or something like that. I like to think that it's actually not that simple, that there are other things that we can do that will help us a lot, even in different cultures and with different people, which in my opinion is most often the most people I work with is quite competent. So it's even when we fail, it's not because of the people. So probably is in some cases, but yeah, it's rarely the fault of the individuals or even the systematic structures. But if you look at the general solution that we have, it tends to be we need to implement X, or we need to adopt Y, or we just need to hire a Z, or something like that. It's very often that we get these quick fix solutions that someone comes from a conference with, I met this guy, and he presented me with this system. They have the same problem. They implemented this system, and everything was awesome after that. And the fact is that generally, yeah, it sounds like that, but it's not really that simple. We can take an example here in Sweden. There was a municipality that implemented an RPA solution, so in the social services, and it went great. Everybody was really happy. The social secretaries were really happy with the solution. They were seeing a lot of benefits, and it was basically, it's all in all considered one of the examples of how to implement RPAs in social services. So of course, other municipalities tried to jump on board and do the same thing. And one of the municipalities that went on board, they went to visit the other municipality, learned about how they did things. And they basically copied the solution, implemented the exact same thing, and a few weeks later, most of the social service secretaries resigned. They simply said that this isn't working, we can't work like this, this is just causing more problems than a solution for us. And it really showed that this tendency to see what works with others and then trying to just copy it it doesn't work. We need something more comprehensive. We need to be able to better adapt to our own environment, to really understand what we need to be able to do. So a silver bullet, like just implementing a system or adopting agile or hiring the best project manager, just isn't enough. It's generally, it can help, but it isn't enough. So how do we actually experience this? What is it that happens within enterprises that when we see this? For the first, it's assumed understanding. So it's a tendency that we work within our silos. Architects talk to architects, designers talk to designers, leaders talk to leaders. Everybody has their own idea of what is the problem, what is the solution, what do we need to do, etc., etc. They don't really talk to each other, and we generally don't talk to the end user at all. So it's very often that we are always going based on our assumed understanding. We see the problem, the solution from one perspective, that is from our perspective, from our context. And this means that no one is really seeing the holistic aspect of this. Nobody really understands the whole of the problem and the solution that we're working with. Another one is assumed alignment. Possibly we see this in a way that you will possibly been in a meeting where everybody nods, everybody agrees and says, "Oh yeah, we understand. This is great," and then we all go out of the room, and either nothing happens, or people start to do completely different things that we actually talked about. So this assumed alignment, that silence is mistaken for an agreement, that just because someone either didn't say something or they nodded and said that they understood, it doesn't mean that we actually have alignment. We need to be able to test it in some way, and it obviously isn't working with the tools that we're working with today. Assume clarity, the fact that we act first and discover misalignments later. We have a tendency to go all in we have the solutions, we jump on the solutions to start implementing that. And then later down the line, there we see that we weren't really aligned, that it's really strange. It seems like many people are not having sound, but other people's are. It seems like the system is working well. Many people are. So yeah. Sorry if it doesn't work, but hopefully it will be good on the recording then. We'll see about that. But anyway, yeah, we act first, discover misalignments later, and this is something that we have a tendency to do, to not really plan for the implementation, not really understanding the holistic aspect of it. So we jump into the solution, even often addressing symptoms rather than actual problems. And the cost of this, it's easy to have misalignments in the beginning that seem really small. Yeah, we're not really aligned on things. That it's no problem. We'll fix it over time. But the problem is misalignment compounds over time. So that we very often see that when we have a problem in a beginning that is quite small, when we go into the matter, we start implementing things. Then suddenly one of the stakeholders comes in and says, "This is not the direction that I was hoping to go to," and that possibly means that we have to change quite a lot of things. There's quite a lot of work that goes to waste, and we need to often start over in some cases with delays, with overrun costs, etc., etc. And very often, the biggest cost is actually not the money thing, or the time, but the irritation of the people, of the participants that are actually working with it. It means that when we get this negativity in the group, when we get these people they feel that they tried to talk to someone, but no one listened. They weren't listened to, or they try to find a way to talk to people. They feel misunderstood because people weren't understanding them. It becomes really frustrating, and this is something that can live with the project or throughout the whole project, or change or transformation that we're working with, meaning that everything becomes just a little bit more difficult. Getting things going is a little bit more difficult, and that means that it becomes so expensive over time. In all of the things, in collaboration, in time, in money, etc., etc. So the real problem that we're facing, it's very much that we don't really have a language or a way to construct this dialogue, to surface this misalignment that we're talking about. So how can we go into a room, we talk to each other, and we go out, and everybody thinks that we understood what was going on, but in reality, it doesn't really happen. And this is one of the problems that I see, and we see so often, is that we don't have the way to actually raise these concerns in a structured and a constructive way. And this is something that is causing all these problems. It's very often just a language problem that architects, when we try to talk between leaders, architects, designers, people in operations, people in the front line, we are using different terms, different vocabularies, and we don't have this structured way of dealing with that problem that we have there. So the key question is, how can we make reality discussable before we commit? So how can we actually, before we make decisions, how can we make it so that we can discuss the implications of that decision, to discuss what that actually means, so that when we want to address something, that we can ensure that we are all talking about the same goal. We are all talking about the same thing we're going to do, in the same way, in the same way that how we're going to address that or do that. So before we commit, to know that, and not only that, one of the biggest problems that I have had in the past is that the problem with, we understand where we're going, but we're not aligned on what we need to be able to get there. What is the requirement? What are the capabilities that we need to have? So it's very often that we're working with a bare minimum, simply because we don't have the dialogue with everybody involved and all the stakeholders involved to actually commit to the effort that is required to get to the goal we want to go to. So that's where we see the enterprise scan coming into play. And this is where the enterprise scan can help in that way. It's not going to be a solution for everything, but it does, every time, it does make us focus on the whole. So very often it's a question of we have different perspectives of what we need to address. What are the elements that we need to focus on when we're actually doing these alignments, when we're talking about the planning and stuff like that? And and very often then we forget one or two aspects. It's not because we're incompetent. It's not because we don't have the time. It's just, it's difficult to have all of the aspects of the holistic aspects in mind every time when we don't have like a checklist. So we can see the scan can be seen as just a simple checklist. Have I thought about the people involved? Have I thought about the purpose of why we're doing this, and the purpose of why we're doing it the way we want to do it? Have we discussed which purpose is most important in this? Because that is something that can be very often different between different stakeholders. We see, okay, these are the main purposes, what we want to accomplish. But when we actually look into which of them are more important, when we come further into the project and possibly need to make difficult decisions about priorities, then we raise the misalignment where the different stakeholders have a completely different ideas of what we should prioritize at each time. to understand the capabilities needed, the assets that we need within these capabilities, and how we're going to actually accomplish this, to discuss really the organization required, etc. So all these elements that we need to account for, it's difficult to really keep that in mind every time if we don't have a checklist in front of us. It's kind of just like a pilot going into the cockpit of the plane and going over the in-flight instruments. So this is the checklist. Check. We want to check this, check this, check this, check this before we go into the air. And that's the same with initiatives and changes and transformation that we want to go. It's simply to have this checklist, the quality checklist, so that even if we decide to discard something or not consider one of the elements, it is done consciously, it's done deliberately, so that when we go through into the planning, then we know we didn't talk about the channels that we're going to be using. And that's okay. We're not there yet. They're going to be discussed a later time. But it's a conscious decision. It's not because we forgot about it. It tests the common understanding. So going through these elements and through these simple questions, the core of the questions in the scan is that is there a common understanding? And this is something that we very often forget in the discussions that we have in projects and initiatives when we're planning, that we tend to test, do I understand? We don't test, do I think that everybody else understands it the same way as I do? So we all look at the problem on the initiative we're working with, and we say, yeah, I understand this. I know what's going on. And then we never test, do we see it the same way? Do we understand it the same way? So we could actually go through the scan, everybody answers the scan, and everybody answers every question with a yes. And still there's a misalignment. So this allows us, if you go into this meeting and ask this question in this way, is there a common understanding? Not only do I understand, it completely changes the dialogue and makes it a lot more comprehensive within the perspective of, it's not just me. I need to understand it, but they also need to understand it the same way. How can I be assured that they do understand it the same way? And this is why very often that we can get a yes on I understand it, but when we start thinking about it, I can't be sure that others will understand it the same way. And just realizing that means that I will have to ask the people around me, do you actually understand it the same way? So that is very much about what we're actually testing. It's not about, do I understand things? It's about, is there a common understanding? And if there isn't, if I suspect that there isn't a common understanding, then I do realize I need to test it. I need to test it in some structured way. We need to have a dialogue with the people that I think may not understand it the same way. And how it works, it's simple questions, structured conversations. It's simple questions that force us to have a dialogue or a conversation about every element of the holistic image, so that it enables us to have this dialogue in a structured way, so we can focus on one element at a time, or one facet at a time, so that we can actually, we don't stray away every time. It's difficult to have a conversation about a complex thing we're working with, but having this methodology, having this thing in front of us, this checklist, enables us to look at each question for itself. And it enables also a much more structured way to facilitate the discussion that we have, so that somebody can actually say, okay, now we need to stop. We're only talking about the task right now. We're not talking about the capabilities. We're not talking about the journey or the process or anything like that. Now we're focusing on the task. Let's just make sure we are in agreement about what the task is that we want to address. And then we can pull the discussion back because we have something in front of us that helps us structure that conversation. We can do this alone or together. So the scan works in both situations. So for me, for example, if I'm leading an initiative like I'm doing right now, I can easily go back to the scan and just contemplate on the questions myself. It only takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to answer it, and then I can really start thinking, okay, why did I answer that way? What does that actually mean that I don't think there's a common understanding for the task or the capabilities? Is that going to be an obstacle for me? How can I address that? So I can start contemplating these strategies and tactics about how I include people, how I gain more alignment, and how I get people to work better together and with me. So this is something that I can do by myself. And then, of course, if I have these people around me, then I can start, we can actually walk into a room and together, okay, now we have going to go through these questions. And depending on what we did in advance, if we all answered it in advance, or if you just go in and go through the questions together, it doesn't really matter. But it raises this clarity. It helps us to get a more broad understanding of what we're talking about. And it also forces us to put ourselves in other people's shoes. So architects, we need to understand the perspective of the designer. We all need to understand the perspective of the end user or the manager that is sponsoring the initiative, etc., etc., so that we can actually understand each other's perspectives, meaning that we will get a holistic understanding, not only what we want to accomplish, but also about what is required for us to actually accomplish it. So what it delivers then is that before we are funding, we are planning, and we're delivering based on assumptions. So it's very often that, yes, you get a funding of something that is 1 million. You can select the currency, and it's based on ROI, which is done by 3 people in a room, possibly based on some data, hopefully. But ROI can generally be doctrined. It's not, when people really work with ROIs, you can definitely see that people can actually, ROI is very much based on guesswork. And that is everything we do. We're always basing that on guesswork. And often that is the best thing that we have. But ROIs also take a lot of time. So possibly this is something that can be done before we go into that. So a scan or something like that is a really simple tool that takes a really short amount of time. We're talking about like 20 minutes for each person to answer it, and then 2-3 hours of discussions. And then we have a completely different picture of what we need within the ROI, what needs to be accounted for, what are we actually addressing. So we're actually able to make better decisions really, really early in the initiative, or even we later in the initiative if we get stuck in a problem, or if you need to make a different decision, then we can test that again. What does that mean? So after it, we can actually start making decisions about funding, planning, and delivery based on a shared understanding, so that we can better understand everything, the holistic aspect of it. We have a better understanding, not only me, but we have a common understanding about what we're going to do and why we're going to do it. And in that, another aspect of that is the consistency. One aspect of, for example, my experience when I'm leading projects and in different initiatives is that I create the structure. So I have a consistency in my structures, in the tools that I'm using, etc. So I don't feel, I feel this always, I mean, we're always using the same language, so I always use the same language. But I've always experienced that the people around me, they don't have the same privilege. They are jumping between different project initiatives. They have different project manager, and everybody's leading the project. They have their language. So using this simple language, so what AdSheet, for example, brings to the table is a simple language that they can unify and make be used consistently across project and cross time. So that if we use AdSheet, if you use the scan, for example, as a basis, as a basic checklist, it means that we can start over time to better understand each other, have increased consistency, not only within a project, but between projects, and making it easier for people to move between projects, not only at the same time, but continually over time. And it also means that we can better compare projects and initiatives, so we can better understand how they are delivering towards our towards our purpose in the organization, or the enterprise, or the goals that we're setting for the year, or whatever it is that we want to contribute to with the initiative that we're working on. So the same language, the same elements enables this consistency over time, so that we can always get better. We can start to understand each other better. We can start making better decisions based on the same aspects and the same elements, not for one project, for every project, which also means that we can start comparing projects, comparing initiatives, making better funding decisions, making better priority decisions, etc., etc. So over time, these patterns become visible. So we will see, where are we struggling? Are we struggling on the capability part, within the architecture? Or are we good with the architecture? Are we struggling with actually communicating and understanding the customer or the end user? Or is it the organizational aspect of it? So we can see over time, because we're using the same elements every time, we can see where are we struggling. And these patterns could become visible when we use something consistently. Because when we are constantly taking on new ways of evaluating things, then we're also missing all the patterns, because we can't compare that over time. So over time, we become better at things, become better at the decision, become better at planning, people could become better at communicating, collaborating, and everything like that. So using a consistent tool to actually work with that. And it's really important that the scan and EDGY, they don't require us to leave Agile or use some other method than waterfall, if that what works for us. It complements. This is not a tool that requires you to rethink everything. It just complements the way you work today, making it a little bit easier, surfacing possible problems that might come up in the future if not addressed today. So it's a compounding value. Enlightened and conscious decision making becomes a capability instead of just a competence for the individuals. So it's a capability that the whole enterprise can have, that we can share with each other, that we can actually ensure that we build, we develop, we nurture, so that over time we can actually make this standard practice, getting better and better every time, just by way of communication and structured conversations. So where to apply it? It's always best to apply it in the beginning. That's absolutely, there's no question about that. If you get the earlier we actually surface these misalignments, the easier it is to address them. But we also can use it just when we get stuck. Or if we just feel that, okay, things are going in the wrong direction, or you're feeling that, well, now something is off, and I don't feel that me and the stakeholders are aligned about what's happening, or where we're going, or how we're doing things. This can help us just to have that conversation in a little bit more structured way. So it basically can be used anytime, just to get a status check. Just to go through the questions regularly and see, okay, where am I having problems right now? where might there not be a common understanding about things in the moment, so we can address that with more precise actions than if we just fumbling around trying to make find ideas about what just trying to identify in some unstructured way what problems we have at the moment. And it's not only for the people that are actually leading an initiative, it is for everybody that has any accountability for change. And change for me, transformation to me, is just a bigger word for change. So change is what we're working with every day. Even in operations, we are constantly working with change. So everybody that is accountable for that, people in leadership positions, people in project managers, people working with change leadership, transformation leadership, product management or design, etc., etc. Anything that is changing what we're doing, what we're delivering, what we're accomplishing. It's something, it's a tool that all of them can use in one way or another, just to focus, to facilitate conversations, and to simplify discussions and decisions. So in all, the EDGY Enterprise Scan, it helps organization move from this acting on assumptions to acting on shared understandings. And this is really, this is one of the biggest things. It's acting on shared understandings, not acting. I'm not acting on how I think things should go. I'm acting on how we together see the best solution for the problem that we're addressing. It forces a holistic view, creates alignment through structured conversation, and builds consistency over time. This holistic view is a really, really complicated thing to actually address, and I'm struggling with that every day now in the initiative that I'm working on right now, for example, to ensure that we have a holistic view, and it's a complicated thing. I think I've managed to bring on a holistic view within the small group that is working with me on actually driving the initiative, but ensuring that everybody else outside of that core group is getting the same information in the same way, making sure that they understand it in the same way, ensuring that we can adopt the language to how they talk. This is a really difficult thing. So even if you can start making EDGY, for example, more visible in a larger group within the organization, all this communication becomes a lot easier, simply because you will be able to talk to more people in the same way. You're starting to be able to understand, use the same diagrams, and people will start understanding the diagram even before you talk. And that is a really, really big facilitator for the communication that we need to do, because in the end it's all about people, and people need to understand not only what we're doing as a whole, but also how it affects them personally. And used repeatedly, it builds the capability that reduces risk, friction, and cost of surprises, so that we can actually ensure that we have a better understanding of what we want to do in the beginning, so that when we actually go forward, we can we have less surprises, we have a better plan, we have better shared understanding of where we're going, and we can assure that we are actually going, even if we take different routes to the same location, we actually are going to the same location. And there's a reason for different routes, because we are gonna merge at some date, and then we can actually merge with a solution that fits. So this is what I see as the EDGY Enterprise Scan, and what we're doing right now. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're planning a course on the Enterprise Scan. So in March we are planning to launch a cohort, an online-based cohort for how to apply the Enterprise Scan in real life. A better understanding of it, how to facilitate the scan sessions, how to do it by yourself, in groups, etc. So this let's see why this is not this webinar right now. It's more about awareness, perspective, what this is addressing, how it's addressing it, etc., and stuff like that. And the cohort is then confidence and ability to actually apply. So we really believe that a structured way to have a conversation and see and getting this holistic aspect is something that can greatly facilitate and help in change initiatives, so that we can actually better collaborate with each other, better communicate, not only with each other within the project, but to everybody else. And with these tools that we have, that we truly believe that we can make good things. So what are your thoughts? Now I've talked for about 40 minutes. I don't see, unfortunately, there's primarily questions in the chat about the sound, but I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the antipatch scan? Do you agree with the problems that I'm raising? That these are actually, have you experienced these problems with misalignment, with people going into meetings, everybody basically either not saying anything or just nodding, and then going out of the meeting, and nobody's actually, and everybody starts doing different things or not doing anything at all? Do you feel this aspect of the holistic understanding, that it's often that we don't see the we can't really talk about the holistic aspect? How are you experiencing these things? I would love to hear your thoughts. One comment here. Of course, we have the same problem, but you can also use domain-driven design to solve these, I guess. There are multiple solutions out there. The scan is not a silver bullet. It's not the only solutions. There are other models out there like that. The primary thing is that what I see, what I think the scan brings to the table, and EDGY actually also, is the simplicity of it. It's something that that can be applied across disciplines, and we don't need to be specialists in something to be able to understand these. The questions are quite simple, and they can, if people have a difficult with understanding the terminology being used, it can be fairly easily explained, and you will get, with simple questions, you will get this holistic understanding. So no, you definitely have other solutions to do that. Absolutely, no question about it. It's one alternative, and it's a fairly simple one that takes quite a little, not a lot of time. You can go through it fairly easily. So that's one of the main strengths of it, maybe in my opinion. I personally face the same challenges as you mentioned, and the common understanding is always missing. Yeah, true. I agree with the problem, but do people see it in client teams, and do they want to solve it? I hope people want to solve it. I absolutely see it every day. I feel it every day that we have a misalignment, we have a misunderstanding of things, and I struggle. So this is something that has helped me a lot to use EDGY to raise certain things and certain elements to the surface. And the scan very often helps me to just keep everything in mind, that ensure that when I'm designing things, that I keep in mind the task, I keep in mind the experience, the architecture, the intersections, the identity, and of course the people, because in the end it's all about people. I find asking the right questions to tease out where the misalignment occurs can be elusive. Could you provide a couple of examples where this has been a challenge for you? Yes, I can absolutely do that. We can take just as an example the work within intersection. We're struggling with that ourselves. We're designing this. We're promoting EDGY and these solutions, and we ourselves are struggling. We're often, the main problem maybe is one of the problems we're facing right now is to try to focus on, okay, who are the core audience, who were the main people that we're trying to reach out. And this is something that we've seen now. We actually performed a scan a couple of weeks ago. We showed that we weren't really aligned on who the what end customer is, if we call it that in this case. That we all had a general idea, but when it came to, okay, who do we want to focus our resources on, because we have very limited resources, so who do we want to focus our resources on, we were not aligned on that. And so this is something that we now have a better understanding of, and which means that we can now address in a more consistent way. So we are now building a smaller group that is actually going to focus a little bit more on that. And this is something we would not have started that initiative to make this smaller group to focus on that if we hadn't surfaced this understanding. So just surfacing this hitting understanding that where you have this feeling that we're not aligned, but this can actually test it, so we can have something that's a little bit more concrete. And this about asking the right question. The right question is difficult. That is definitely, it's usually a lot simpler to have an answer than to have a question, especially when you raising a discussion with a specialist from another area. And that's one of the big thing about it also. We are all specialists. We all have our own tools. We all have our own ideas of what is the right question. So sometimes it can help just to standardize on what questions to ask. And then we often need something that is possibly on the intersection of different disciplines, instead of aligning that me as an architect come in and say, we're going to use my tools, or the designer says, no, we're going to use my tools. It's journey mapping, or it's capability mapping, or something like that. So just making sure that we actually have the same question that can facilitate a lot. Do you recommend the scan for implementation of new ways of working in public sector? Absolutely. That's what I'm doing. I'm working in public sector in new ways of working. And it's the primary thing in there is the one that I have found most elusive is to really nail down what we want to accomplish. So the scan, you have to be able to apply the scan, you need to have some kind of outcome that you're actually trying to get. And then you hopefully need to have some kind of problem. So trying to narrow things enough and trying to focus define well enough what you actually want to scan, what you want to have the questions revolve around. That has been my biggest problem in the public sector when it comes to way of working. But I'm doing that right now. Excellent. Is there a way of common understanding can be fostered leveraging the digital twin of an organizational approach? And how do we automate enterprise scan for a continuous real-time holistic view? Wow, that is a big question. I haven't worked with digital twin that much, so I hope I'm not going to be just talking out of my ass at the moment. But I would say I would not try to automate the enterprise scan. The enterprise scan is not, the enterprise scan itself will not give you answers. It will give you a possibility for discussions. It will enable you to talk about things, and it will raise issues so that you can actually address them. So doing a scan and receiving the result of it will not give you much. So that's a really important aspect of it, that at the enterprise scan we've seen, it can't be really automated. It is only to facilitate discussions and facilitate contemplations and thinking and stuff like that. So I would not try to automate it. But with regards to the digital twin, it can absolutely be used as a digital twin to identify what needs to be accounted for within that organization. The EDGY elements, you need to, I would be really interested to see someone actually making a digital twin of an enterprise using the EDGY elements, because it will actually give you a pretty good understanding of the holistic aspect of the enterprise. So the questions in the scan might be a possible way of looking into that. Having some real customer case applied the scan. Totally agree with the general problems, and I am also convinced that scan can be a good approach. Just think that sharing of real cases would be interesting. Yes, I am struggling with that a little bit. I've used it in my work several times, but I've never really used it in a way that is. I would say it's not like approved in the organization. I come in as a consultant, so I bring my tools in the organization. I apply them as I see fit or necessary. But I've been able to gotten the possibility of applying it within a construction of agreement that this is actually okay in this project or initiative. We're going to be using these tools. So unfortunately, this is not something that I've been able to accomplish, and I'm hoping that we will have some of these possibilities in the cohort, that we can surface some of these cases. And I would be really interested in seeing and talking to people that have used it in a more consistent way than maybe I have. So unfortunately, but this is something that we are working on, and we hope to be able to deliver not only with the scan, but with the EDGY in general. Working on product-led delivery approach, problem definition, user journeys, pain points, etc. are helping, but seeing the whole is still a challenge. Yes, this is a typical way of the users, the UX designers. I mean, top task surveys, jobs to be done surveys, journey mapping. They're all really good tools to really understand the customers, but very often they forget the architectural aspect of it. And on the other hand, the architectural aspect, we have a tendency to look at capability mappings or process alignments and stuff like that. And everybody talks to the identity. I mean, I wanna say that I'm pretty confident that UX designers, they are looking into the purpose of things. They're looking into the story behind things. Why are things like they are? How do we want them to be in the future? And the same on the architect side. But it's kind of like the experience and identity are talking together, the architecture and identity are talking together, but then you have architecture and experience are quite misaligned. And that means very often that you have a breakage in the intersection, where the project design is either being done very much on the experience side, and often then missing what are the capabilities actually required on the back end, or you on the other side, that you have the capabilities but you don't really have the application areas or understanding of the pain points of the customers. So absolutely, this is something that the scan can then help very much about. It forces you to look into it, ask the questions about the other facets and elements also. Even if as EDGY certified architect, spreading the message is not easy. While I have not used the enterprise scan yet, I'm hopeful it will help in getting that shared understanding. I feel you. Yeah, that is something that is difficult. It's a new thing, and new things are not always easy to discuss. But the EDGY the scan is a facilitator, and one of the aspects of that is that the people that you do the scan with, they don't have to know EDGY. They don't have to know anything about EDGY. You can work with those questions. You can hide EDGY completely. If you take out the colors, just use the questions and have that dialogue. You can even break out the questions and take it completely on the backside, so that they can help you just have that holistic dialogue. That, okay, have you thought about the people, and have you thought about the fact that there are multiple types or groups of people? Because very often we focus on the end customer and we forget the people that actually deliver, or we focus on the people that we deliver and we don't really have a dialogue about the end customer. Usually it's the people that deliver that are forgotten, or the fact that, okay, have you thought about the stories? What is the background of this? Do we really understand it? How can we verbalize the future that we see and the vision that we have? That is, for example, these stories, the future stories, is something that I'm struggling with right now in my project at that stage where I'm in right now. And I just came out of a meeting this week where I was talking to the end user, the specialist that I'm in the business who are helping me understand the requirements. And they were asking about these. We need to really better understand what is the benefit going to be, what is going to look like for the end customer, what is actually going to, you say it's going to be better. What is that better? And these stories, this is something that we very often forget. We don't realize that they are actually elements, that they are things that we need to design, that we need to adapt to people and the people's situations. So just understanding these elements and talking about them from a perspective of being something concrete that we need to keep in mind in our design is something that can help us a lot. So even if we don't always get forward with EDGY or have that as a language, it is something that can really facilitate the discussions, and especially when we marry it with the patterns that we have for enterprise design. I'm wondering how to use the scan in a multi-sided business platform context. Just like with the Milky Way, there seems to be too many stakeholders to wrap our head around at the same time. Any ideas? Yes. The only thing I can say, the scan is definitely a tool that is a little bit simple for that scenario. It can be difficult to apply it in a complex system like that. So the only thing I can actually say is that try to break it down and possibly do the scan of specific aspects of what you want to accomplish, or try to make the holistic picture. So it always depends on what is the enterprise. Is the enterprise the whole enterprise, which always will be a complicated thing? It is a risk that you will start going into really hypothetical areas, or that you will be able to focus on end customer, but the capabilities behind it are so vast that it's difficult to get your head around. So there's the two ways to do that. One is to accept that you're working on a very high level and that you're just trying to surface misalignments and possible problems. So you need to be then working, if you have a capability map or a Milky Way map, you need to focus on a certain area or a certain level of the capability map, so that you know, okay, we're on this level right now. We're not going to go into the details behind it. It's simply too big. We need 20 people in the room, and we don't have time for that. The discussion would be too complicated. So keep it on the right level. So defining the enterprise on the right level when you go into the scan. The other one is to break it into pieces, to actually look at specific parts of it. So in a Milky Way, you can, for example, look at specific areas of the dial. And that's something that you can do a scan on and see more specifically with the stakeholders that are accountable for just that part of the Milky Way. Service blueprint is also very helpful to merge the customer journey with the enterprise capabilities. It's very helpful with a holistic view. I can see how they can complement each other. Yes. Absolutely. I very much like service blueprint. It's just, we need to understand, even in service blueprint, we still don't have all the aspects. So it's really difficult to have all the elements within a service blueprint. So I would see the scan is more of a, how can we enable the dialogue between the different layers of the service blueprint, the organizational layer, the experience layer, and the architecture layer, and then use the service blueprint to document the results. So if we have a problem in one area, we can document what is the problem, and then we can actually use it in a service blueprint to raise it, to increase, because we will always need something to discuss from. So when we actually focus on the capabilities, for example, the scan can help you see that you have a misalignment in there. But when you want to really focus on where is the misalignment, you will need some kind of a diagram. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can't be just 4 boxes of different capabilities, and then you have a discussion, are these the capabilities, the primary capabilities we need? And so some kind of documentation like that is really important for the dialogue to actually be able to discuss around a specific thing, to get your mental model in some way out on paper so you can actually discuss it. And then a Milky Way map is great if you have a bigger picture, or a service blueprint if you're talking about a specific service or specific product offering or something like that. Absolutely. I like the branding idea. I'm kind of doing that using ANSI colors only on the words representing facets and elements when producing infographics. Yes, I'm currently using only primarily the icons and the colors, but we all have also been talking about using just the colors in text. So just to highlight when we're talking about certain things, and it doesn't have, we don't always have to explain it, because just using colors will highlight certain aspects that we want to highlight in a text document, or using an image in some place, you just highlight something. So it's a really smart idea, a way to actually highlight things that we want to focus on and make the dialogue a little bit better. Yes, absolutely. So great tips. Yes, awesome. Now we are closing to the hour mark, and so awesome. Thank you for all the feedback. Thank you for the questions that we have and the engagement. That's really appreciated. Before I go, I just want to promote a little bit. Of course, we have like I said, the Enterprise Scan cohort. If you're interested in learning more about how to apply the Enterprise Scan, this is something that we'll be starting in March, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. It is a completely online course. It is a flipped classroom where we will have you will be able to watch certain videos in between sessions, and then in the sessions it will be more hands-on, more about how we actually do things and stuff like that. So the more of the theory and the information is in video, which you can just look into in between, and then the sessions are more focused around something a little bit more practical. And then, of course, we have the webinar series that we have launched, and we are still bringing on new webinars. I think we have 3 webinars planned that we have not published yet. So it's 8 webinars total until the spring. So this is something that we're really working on, making more consistent, and hopefully also bringing in more people that can help us bring more ideas and thoughts into this, and hopefully make this a little bit more valuable so that we can actually start learning more about how to apply things. And yes, Intersection 26 Montreal, absolutely. I'm going to be there. I hope you see as many of you as possible. It's going to be awesome. First time we cross the Atlantic, and we're really looking forward to it. So thank you so much for today, and hope you see you soon again. Bye-bye.